Twisted Christian. Today I'm going to be discussing how I think about the Dinar RV, the global currency reset, and many other things. And kind of show you, because it's almost like I have all my thoughts and what I think about all right here. So, but before we get into this chart that I have here, I'd like to thank you guys for your support on the Patreon. The link is down below in the description. Also, there's PayPal if you like and support this channel. I really appreciate it. We have over 200 people on the Patreon that support the Patreon, so don't forget to go over there and give your support. I also work on animation projects as well, and when you go over to that Patreon, you'll see that. Okay, folks, just to get into what this video is about, as you can see here upon the screen, here in the middle, you have the Dinar RV, the market crash with a question mark, and the global currency reset. So then everything else that at least that goes through my mind, that will have an effect that will lead up to a market crash or the global currency reset and the Dinar RV. So the first thing is I look at, okay, what are the investment opportunities? And that's what I look at, is I look at all these different things, all these different industries, all these different markets. How can I take advantage of what's supposed to be leading up to the Dinar RV, the global currency reset, and market crash? And how I can prepare myself. Now, as we see, and I'm just going to go over each one of those things, each one of these things, so you can get an understanding how I look at this and why there are different theories, right? Because no one is right. And, and I know a lot of you have heard different things from different people. You've got dates and you got rates. You said it's happening. You've heard it's happening now. It's happening this weekend. It's happening on the holiday. And I know a lot of you have been through a lot of stuff. And I'm not going to I could give you a time frame, but I just know that it's right now. The way I look at it is I don't necessarily see it right now. I don't see it within the next few months, but I could be wrong. It could pop at any time, right? Kim Clement says when things seem at their worst, there are different things I look at concerning all of that. All right, that's going to either lead up or be a trigger, signs, what investment opportunities. So that's one of the first things I'm looking at. Okay, I know all this is going on. We know the dinar is going to change in value, so of course we're going to invest in that. But before that actually takes place, are there going to be other investment opportunities in any of these areas that we can benefit from before the actual change in the dinar? So in all of this, we have the major players: the U.S., Russia, China, Iran, Iraq, North Korea, OPEC nations. Some say, Great Britain and the whole EU thing. But I'm really kind of focused on those because they all play a part. North Korea, once that whole issue was settled, it's going to open up a floodgate of investments. Whether it happens, in the next few months, or whether it happens, down, several years down the line, maybe after the reset or the Dinar RV, to where we can look forward to other investments down the road, to where we can keep the investment money coming in. All right, now the next thing I'm going to look at is the debt. Right now, I think the debt is very important. It could relate to a market crash, the global currency reset, and the RV. You know that the world right now is $250 trillion global debt. The United States, $23 trillion, the government is in debt. And then $14 trillion, the United States household. And I kind of focus on the United States. So whatever country that you live in, you need to look at, what is your government debt? What is the average household debt? And 14 trillion for the household debt it's a pretty high number, considering the United States government debt is $23 trillion. So I look at it and see, okay, how's that going to affect? Well, obviously, they can't maintain that. They can't maintain that debt for very much longer. And I have shown articles about the debt. And the debt is one of the things that's going to, that can really derail the economy, especially $250 trillion worth of debt on a global scale is just weighing down the global economy. All right, then we're going to go ahead and look at gold and how that could relate to any kind of crash, the global currency reset or the Dinar RV. All right, now gold was one of those things that I didn't really hear that many people talking about it. It was just very few people that talked about gold as far as the global currency reset. And I'm not sure who was talking about gold and the dinar. I brought those up in past videos. How could any of that relate? Because we know that Iraq bought a lot of gold back between 2010 and 2014, and they really haven't bought very much gold since then. And also gold-backed currency. We've discussed how the United States, the President of the United States wants to go to a gold-backed currency. I've showed you other articles of other instances and central banks in other countries that have talked about the gold-backed currency. And is that a whole separate event from the global currency reset? Because a lot of people talk about the market crash. Now, what happens if the dinar revalues, but we haven't seen the market crash that everybody's talking about, right? Then I think you would be very concerned that I would think that you'd be very concerned that if the dinar values and there's no crash, when the dinar RVs doesn't have anything to do with the gold-backed currency or gold-backed standard, because are those events that could change things down the road, right? Then I look at also at the crypto market. That's a lot of that was just trying to be a part of the investment opportunity. But I also look at how does it affect the economy, how are governments looking at it, central banks looking at it. Then you have, if you're investing in the crypto market, the central bank digital currencies, which is their version of the cryptocurrency market. And then I've also discussed gold-backed crypto, and I've presented some articles where that could be where the investment should be, and not in Bitcoin and other non-gold-backed currencies. So, and then I take a look at that, see how does that play at all in any of these things here, the Dinar RV, global currency reset. It's this whole new technology, this new payment technology, another way to exchange. It's supposed to be better, faster. Then we have Iraq. All right, so we look at their, so what we present to you is like articles, from the government, political things that could lead up to those events dealing with the dinar. We watch for the news at the central bank, what they're doing, and then we're also seeing the corruption and how they're dealing with that. And you already know that it has not been dealt with. If anything, it's gotten worse. Then you have to look at their economy and what they're doing with their economy, and what they're doing with like their oil and finding oil and pumping oil. But one of the things that when I do look at that is what the central banks are doing. Because I've showed you an article before in 2014, they were ready to redenominate their currency or revalue or however they were going to do it. They were ready, which means that if they were ready, they put it on hold because of their country was taken over by half of that group, which they were involved in a long battle trying to take back all of Iraq. Right, but they said they were ready in 2014. So if they were ready in 2014, that means the lower denominations are already printed, if that's the system that they're going to use. Maybe they might try to go to a full electronic system, but right now you can't do that because the country has not been rebuilt like it was supposed to have been. Right, there's still a lot of poor, there's just like a lot of different poor areas, a lot of rebuilding that still has to do in a lot of areas of Iraq. So I really don't see that. So we look at all those situations to see how they're connected to any of those three things that are there in the middle. And then another way I look at different things, okay, what is the central bank system? What's the Federal Reserve doing? What are they saying? How does gold and central bank digital currencies have an effect on any of these things? Of course, we talked about debt and also changes to the central banking system. If they come out with any new unison ways of handling things or dealing with things. So I look for that. I look for when all the central banks come all at once and basically say the same thing or do the same thing or make the same moves. And then you have some banks that come out and say, they talked about the gold. right? It was that one central bank that talked about in a global currency reset, gold would be used to back currency. All right, so that's why you would look at the individual central banks around the world, because sometimes, anytime they make an announcement, I think a lot of times it's going to be done by maybe one or two central banks, and then everybody else, then they'll have one, all one unison announcement when they are wanting to make changes or they're doing certain things. All right, and then these are particular events that I look at. you know, uh, Especially now, currently, a new Iraq PM. I'm looking for the end of the trade war between China and the United States. I also too look for the mass arrest that deals with corruption all over the world. It deals with a lot of the things that we have discussed with Mr. E, and you can see that here at the very bottom. I don't say his name. And then now we're also too looking at the protests and the change now, because a lot of those people out there in Iraq, they're poor, they're hungry, they have no jobs, there's nothing for them, there's no food. So you have a lot of people in a lot of desperate situations over there. And so I'm looking for an event that, hey, maybe this could be the trigger, because if they're going to keep doing that, they're going to keep being out there in the streets and protest, and they're going to keep doing it every single day. Well, at some point, change, and they want now change. All right, and then I look for a global economic, some type of crash. Is the Dow going to go back down and hit 20,000? The overall markets are going to crash. All around this whole global thing because of the debt. And the central banking system, it has run its course, and it can no longer sustain. So some of these are indicators. The end of the trade war. I look at the global currency reset, the Dinar RV. I look at it from a prophetic point of view, like Kim Clement and others, and dreams and visions, and see what people are saying out there. Because a lot of us wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Kim Clement. So a lot of times I look at his stuff and how does it relate to any kind of market crash or a global currency reset or the Dinar RV itself, and all the things that he said. All the things that he said about the gold, the debt, Iraq, the central banking system, or any of these other things, and then of course other investment opportunities. So you can kind of see here kind of how I try to put all these different things together, and that's why just at some point the dinar is going to trigger, right? Whether it's part of the global currency reset, whether it deals with gold. However, at some point it's going to happen. It's about how we get there and what are the events that are going to lead up to that, and what are the things that at least I try to look at and try to bring about if I think there's something important enough, to report that we need to watch this. Because I've told you guys to watch the gold. I've told you watch the central banks buying gold, to look at the debt, and take a look for the news to see what central banks are saying and what they're doing. So I hope you guys got a better understanding of how I look at these different things and how all this is going to lead up to what we're looking for. Because, the way that I look at this right now is I don't really see it. Right now, I don't see it happening, but it could. I think we're going to go into 2020. I hope not. But then also, too, as I said before earlier in the video, what if the dinar revalues, but the markets haven't crashed yet, right? Because we all think it's going to, right? We've been told, we've been taught this whole thing surrounding the dinar and the global currency reset. There's going to be some type of crash. Kim Clement said, when things seem like they're at their worst, whether that's on a global scale. See, that's the other thing. Sometimes when he's prophesying, are we looking at what he said on a global scale when things seem at their worst? Was he talking about on a global scale where the markets are going down, everybody's freaking out because it's going back down to 20,000? And the news media and how they report things. Because I've shared with you guys before, the Dow's only comprised of 30 companies. And some of these events, especially dealing with Mr. E, there's a lot of people tied to a lot of those companies in the Dow. So you don't know how things are going to affect one another. Just say, for instance, of one of the companies in the Dow, the CEO gets arrested for hanging out with Mr. E, right? that's probably going to have a devastating effect on the stock market or their particular stock. So that's when I say that when we see these certain events and we haven't had the Dinar RV or the global currency reset or the crash yet, see, when we see those events, we know that some of these events are leading up to what our main investment is, and that's the Dinar. So with the investment opportunities, like I tell everybody, everything is a risk. Currency is a risk. Cryptos are a risk. Investing in gold is a risk. Investing in stocks is a risk. You only invest what you can afford, and you always do your research when you're looking at these things. And I hope that this right here kind of helps you guys give a better idea of how all these different things can affect what we're looking for. I'll be using this in other videos in the future, so when I am explaining certain things, you guys can see the full picture and what I'm thinking. And hopefully that you guys will start seeing, because we all wonder about a date, we all wonder about a rate, and I think if we're just going to wake up one day and then it's just going to happen. But let's take advantage of those and, look at the investment opportunities surrounding all of these things. So we're not relying on just this one event, because there's going to be other events that Kim Clement talks about that, the dinar is one of the 8 wells. I mean, they're like the space industry. They're really expensive. Like some of the stocks are like over $100, some are over $500. I mean, some of them are just like wildly crazy. And those are going to be some of the companies that might really take off down the road when it comes to mining asteroids and so forth. But by that point, we should have already taken advantage of all the investments, especially the ones that Kim Clement talked about, so that we can invest in those more expensive stocks later on. We'll be talking about all of this much more. And I'll have some more videos coming this week and some other things that I'm going to show you guys. I appreciate all you guys' support. The support links are down below in the description. And with that being said, Twisted Christian out.